The Miami Heat busted up the Los Angeles Lakers last night, 110-96 in Los Angeles. The Miami Heat had a well-balanced and rounded out effort from their team and from their bench specifically. So super happy to see the Miami Heat beat the Los Angeles Lakers. Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. My name is Amir. Before I get into today's video, I just want to thank everybody for their continued support of my channel. If you could please hit subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. So thank you again for that support. So last night, the Miami Heat went into Los Angeles after losing to the Clippers 2 nights before and playing a horrible game and losing by double digits. And they were able to bounce back against the Los Angeles Lakers, who are a good home team. They were 11-4 before last night's game, and the Lakers have been on a cold streak themselves. They've lost 2 games in a row. You would think that they would show some urgency and try hard and put in effort. We know Anthony Davis did last night. He was spectacular on both ends of the court. Specifically on defense, he was shutting down our players. Bam Adebayo had a lot of trouble scoring on Anthony Davis, and Davis was just all over the place on both ends, and he was dominating the floor last night, but it wasn't enough. And LeBron James apparently was sick, but he looked really old last night, inefficient and not effective at all. And some of their young players stood out, like Max Christie. He played well off the bench and scored in double figures and had a nice dunk on Bam Adebayo, even though Bam didn't fully jump on that dunk. And he didn't put the full effort in because I think he didn't want to leave Anthony Davis in the paint, because Christie could have dropped off that pass to Davis for a dunk. But nonetheless, still impressive dunk on Bam Adebayo, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA. So, yeah, total team effort, honestly. I think the story tonight was that the Miami Heat played 8 players tonight, except for the last 30 seconds when it was a blowout. But they played 8 guys tonight, and everybody scored in double figures. So everybody contributed, all the way from Kyle Lowry to Kevin Love, and then Nikola Jovic, which we'll get into later, had an awesome game. But it was nice to see that the Heat showed their depth, being shorthanded, undermanned once again, which is the story of it's not the story of the year, because it's the story of the past 4 years, where the Miami Heat have been dealing with tons of injuries throughout the regular season. So Jimmy Butler out again, Haywood Highsmith out again, and Caleb Martin out again. We got Josh Richardson back, which was great. He played well off the bench and was efficient and hit some big threes tonight. So happy that Josh was back from this back injury. But yeah, shorthanded again on the road against the Lakers, who, were 500 before last night. They're 17-18 now. They're still considered an upper echelon team right now, even though they're playing inconsistently and have gone, I think, 3-7 or 3-8 now in their last 11 games. So they're not having the best start to the season, and that's unfortunate because LeBron and AD have been on the court. They haven't really missed too many games. I think AD's only missed 2 games, which is quite impressive in comparison to Bam, who missed 10-11 games already this season. So yeah, just tough. They can't find the right rotational players. They have players out. Obviously, Gabe Vincent's hurt. D'Lo wasn't in. Rui Hachimura wasn't playing, so they were missing some pieces too. So, but yeah, they just had horrible games from players like Taurean Prince, Hood Schifino, who was the 17th overall pick for the Lakers, who they picked over Jaime Jaquez, the hometown hero, which we'll get into later today as well. But there's a lot of guys who struggled, including LeBron James. Anthony Davis was the one who stuck out the most and dominated on both ends, but it wasn't enough. He had no support. And yeah, the game was an interesting game from the beginning. The Miami Heat I think they were only down 4-7 or 5-7, and I don't think they ever gave up the lead ever again in that game. But the Lakers came out cold and had 8 turnovers within the first 5 or 6 minutes in the first quarter. And the Heat were shooting cold at the beginning. They had tons of wide open 3-point opportunities. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero missed multiple wide open shots. And the Heat were able to go up by 11 in the first quarter and they weren't able to take advantage of those 8 turnovers and get points off those turnovers. And the announcers even last night were saying, because this was a national televised game, and they were saying that the Lakers are lucky to not be down by 20 at this point with 8 turnovers in the first 5-6 minutes or whatever it was. So initially, early on, turnovers were a big issue. And also throughout the rest of the game, that was the key theme, I think, for the Lakers, why they lost, outside of poor shooting, was turnovers. But the Heat were able to take advantage of those turnovers slightly in the first quarter and ended the first quarter 25-18. The rest of the half, I guess, was just back and forth, and the Lakers were able to chip away. But Miami had control of the game throughout the entire game, it seemed like. They weren't dominating, but they always had a lead. And anytime the Lakers came back within 2-3 points, the Heat were able to bring it back up to 7 to 10 points all throughout the game, it seemed like. So happy the Heat were able to sustain any of the runs that the Lakers were putting together. So great win on the road. The Miami Heat are now 2-2 on this West Coast road trip. They beat the Lakers and the Warriors, and they lost to the Jazz, which was unfortunate, and the Clippers. And so tomorrow night is the final game of this road trip, and they're going to be playing the Suns. I'm not sure who's going to be on the injury report for the Suns, if KD is going to play or if Beal is going to play at all. But I'm pretty sure Jimmy Butler is not going to play tomorrow night either, and I'm sure Caleb is going to be out as well. Not sure about Haywood. Haywood was in concussion protocol, so he's sat out now 2 games. So I believe he should be able to play on Friday, which would be helpful because we do need our wing defenders against the Suns, Booker, if KD's playing, and Bradley Beal. So nonetheless, though, this was a huge win. I hate the Lakers more than any team in the NBA, so happy to see LeBron lose specifically, but also just seeing them struggle. Darvin Ham looks like a terrible coach. He doesn't know who to put in his rotation. I think he's going to get fired before the regular season's over. We'll see. But love seeing the Lakers in the 10th seed now, I think. Love seeing them as a play-in team at best, but hoping they miss the playoffs. That would be a dream. The Miami Heat now are 20-14, so not bad again for dealing with all these injuries. And they had their 19th different starting lineup last night, which is insane, the most in the NBA by far. So Nikola Jovic got the start, which I was surprised to see, but the Miami Heat wanted to inject some youth. Former episode, talking to my buddy Panos, who's a Laker fan, said that the Lakers are poor transition defenders, so are the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat are not good in transition in general. So the Lakers showed that they weren't a great team on the transition. They had a lot of turnovers from that, and so the Miami Heat were able to capitalize. So Nikola Jovic, though, going back to him real quick, so he played only his 9th game of the year so far, started his 3rd, and he looked awesome last night. He had 15 points and I think 8 rebounds. 1 assist, 6 for 11 shooting, 3 for 5 from 3, and he had 1 steal and no turnovers, which is key. He's been pretty turnover prone. The time that he's been getting in the last 4-5 games or so, Spo has been playing to his strengths, and he's not making him stand on the corners as a stretch 4. He's actually allowing him to bring the ball up at times, lead our transition, and play make, essentially. So the ball's at his hands, and he's been thriving over these last few games. You could see the confidence is growing, and I think that's huge for a young player. Him sitting on the bench, rotting away, not getting any minutes or opportunity has been detrimental to him. And he even volunteered earlier in the season to go play for the Heat's G League team because he just wanted to play versus just sitting on the bench. He wasn't even coming in during blowout wins or blowout losses. So happy to see him get into the rotation. And yeah, man, he played really well. Even defensively, he was playing better. He was moving his feet a lot more. He was less handsy. I think he only got called for a couple fouls. He usually gets called for tons of fouls because he uses his hands a lot and he's not a great defender. So let me see real quick. Yeah, he still had 4 fouls, so he needs to work on that. But defensively, he was moving his feet more, which was good to see on that end. And on offense, He wasn't playmaking as much tonight because the Lakers were playing a little more drop on him. So he was taking advantage of his three ball, and he was 3 for 5 from three, and he was not hesitating at all. He was super confident, and his stroke looked good last night. So happy to see Jovic get some time last night. Other players that I can talk about real quick. Bam struggled. He's been off the last few games, and I think tonight was due to Anthony Davis, his length, one of the best defenders in the NBA, of course. He had 15 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 5 for 14 shooting, so pretty inefficient. 5 for 6 from the line. He had 3 steals, 2 turnovers. So Bam just did enough to help the Heat win, obviously contributing on with those assists, finding his teammates, getting those rebounds, some steals. So he played great defensively, but struggled against AD. Hero, not the greatest game either, but he did just enough to help the Heat win. He was a little inefficient, 7 for 19 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, which was great, but 21 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. He started off really slow. Second quarter, he started to pick up and hit a couple threes, got into the mid-range, made some buckets, but was quiet again in the fourth quarter. Didn't really play much because I think the Heat were riding Duncan Robinson's hot hand, which I was happy that Spo kept Robinson in that fourth quarter because he pretty much elevated and ran our entire offense for that fourth quarter and helped us win that game. So Kyle Lowry played pretty well. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, which is great. 3 for 6 from the field. So he had 4 steals, very active hands in the first quarter, stripped AD on one play, which was huge. Got a fast break from that. So huge game. For Kyle Lowry at this age, 37, I'm happy with games like these, especially when we have Jimmy out and other players. Duncan Robinson, man, that dude, 3 for 12 from 3. He was 0 for 8 at one point in the game. 1 for 9 overall going into the fourth quarter, and just couldn't make wide open shots. He literally made 0 wide open shots. And in the fourth quarter, when the Heat needed the bench or someone to come in and score buckets for us because the Lakers were coming back, he was the one who stepped up. And anytime the Lakers came back, he started hitting big shots. So his first 3 of the game was a corner 3 at the end of the shot clock, and it was off balanced on 2 players. One of those players was AD, so super impressive. Hit it, nothing but net. Next play, he comes down and he makes a one-handed scoop layup off the glass over Anthony Davis, and that literally killed all the momentum that the Lakers had. And Duncan was able to hit another another 3 in Anthony Davis's eye in that fourth quarter. So he had 11 points of his 13 in the fourth quarter. Huge comeback game for Duncan Robinson after a horrible and poor start. Kevin Love has just been continuing to impress for the Miami Heat. He had 10 points, 14 rebounds off the bench, 3 assists, 4 for 7 from the field, 2 for 6 from the line. He needed to clean that up a little bit, but he had a block and a steal, no turnovers, which is huge. 14 boards was great. 28 minutes, that's the most he's played in a while. He's averaging around 18 minutes per game, but still huge, man. K-Love is playing well for someone who's 35 years old, coming off the bench. He's been a revelation this season, which is great. So happy to see K-Love do well. Jay Rich coming back from a 3-game absence, 10 points, 4 for 7 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, hit some big threes, as I mentioned earlier. And the one player I didn't really talk about yet is Jaime Jaquez. He's on his homecoming tour back in Los Angeles, and he put on a show last night too. Very efficient, 7 for 14, 2 for 6 from 3, missed his first 4 threes, then was able to hit a couple big ones at the end, and one in the fourth quarter in particular. In the corner, he hit a big 3 when the Heat were up by 5 or 6 to put it back up by 8 or 9. He just continues to impress as a rookie. 16 points, 8 assists, no rebounds, but he was playmaking off pick and rolls and just finding his teammates last night. That was huge. He had one really impressive play where the rookie on the Lakers, Hood Schifino, went up for a dunk. He blocked it. Jovic picked it up, and he had a kind of half-court pass to Duncan Robinson, who was wide open underneath for a layup. So huge contributions across the board for the Miami Heat. Happy we were able to win. Next up, as I mentioned earlier, we're playing the Suns to end this West Coast road trip. So hoping the Heat can go 3-2. If so, I'd be really happy. We could forget about that loss to the Clippers, who are a really good team, and then that horrible loss to the Jazz, who are a crappy team. So I'm optimistic. I think the Heat can win this game. Not sure if Jimmy's out for sure. I assume he's going to be, but we could really use him. I would be happy if he does play, because we do need to get this victory. We're only a quarter or half game behind the Sixers for the 3rd seed. So we're inching up, creeping up, and next up is to catch up to the Sixers and then take that number 2 seed from the Bucks, which would be sweet. So anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon. Have a good day.